Okay, good morning everyone. Today's date is June 5th, 20. It's 9:30 a.m. We're here for our workshop for Hale County Commissioners Court. Our agenda items this morning on the, we'll start with the auditors.
Good morning.
Morning.
The only thing I have is to approve the 2021 budget calendar. It is that time again. So I won't go over the whole thing, but just to let you know, June 12th is when I will send out the department budget preparation packets. So those will go out to you, and then they'll have to be back to me by June 26th. And we will start budget workshops.
Then I'm going to go ahead and on my agenda item, number 2, I've got a census resolution. This was something that they had asked us to do back really in the winter, and I had neglected to put it on the court. And so it's just a resolution encouraging people to take part in the census, how important the census is to us, especially in where we live, because of that's how representation in state government and federal government is all derived at is by population. So we need everyone that is around to be counted, and so that we can maintain, at least hopefully maintain the representation that we have. Okay, so also it has to do with a whole bunch of federal benefits and things like that is based on population. So just going to encourage everyone to take part in the census. My other resolution is on the COVID-19 grant that I'm working on for SPAG, and one of the requirements was that we have a resolution passed by Commissioners Court, so I'll have that. And just so y'all will know, both of those are one-page resolutions, so you won't have to do any rank along so. And then we'll talk about our courthouse COVID-19. Our local declaration that we've talked about says that we will review that subject again on June 8th. And so y'all might be thinking about, there are certain standards that through the court administration and the Supreme Court that we have to do, such as, we'll have to post notices at the courthouse doors, asking people, of course, if they're sick, not to come in, and things like that. I think in the plan we have to be, anyone that does come in will have to have their temperature taken, and if it's above a certain number, they'll be asked to leave. And then we won't have any face-to-face, to my knowledge, we won't have any face-to-face court, like trials or anything, until at least August 1st is what they've asked us to do. And so we'll continue, and they want us to do as much as we can do by Zoom, and so we'll continue to do those things. But like I say, y'all need to be deciding over the weekend what y'all think about what we need to do. What I'm thinking is maybe the problem is some of the departments have some safety measures that they want to do in place and some don't. And so I would think if we would allow access to the courthouse for county business and leave it up to the department on whether they want to open their office or not. If they have those things in place, then I think, it would be good for them to open. I hate to see the community open back up, the courthouse not open back up. But also, I know some offices are in process of receiving safety equipment and stuff, and so they may want to wait until they actually have the products installed. Because like I say, we want to be mindful to our constituents, but we also owe an obligation to our employees to help keep them safe. So y'all think about that, and we'll see what we decide to do on Monday. Okay, now I have 2 recordings. So, Mike, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I've already done that because I planned on doing Mike's report, but I'm gonna go ahead and let Mike do his EDC report for the first quarter. And so, go ahead, Mike.
I'm just glad I called Hale because I used to get agendas emailed to me and I've fallen off the system some way, so I wasn't even sure we were meeting today. So I'm a little ill prepared, but I'm ready to go here.
I'll let Lucille know and she'll put you back.
Yeah, I think somehow I just kind of fell through the cracks, but that's not a problem. First of all, I want to say this in terms of our leaders in our community. I want to thank our city officials, our county officials, everyone for the leadership that you've shown during the COVID pandemic. I think y'all have shown strong leadership, and I think it's helped keep our numbers down to a very a good number, I guess. I know there's lost some people, and that's unfortunate, but I think we handled this crisis really, really well, and that's because of y'all's great leadership. So thank you for that. During all of this, the EDC has remained open as a essential business, and what we've tried to do, number one, is be somewhat of a resource to our members in terms of programs that were out there for assistance for them, whether it's through on the state level through a Texas Workforce Commission or through the CARES Act, SBA loans and that sort of thing. So we, on our website, and I'll get to that in just a moment, we did put a banner that had a listing of all the different resources that businesses could access and get information on in terms of how they could maybe apply for assistance. And along those lines, the main thing we did, there was a Plainview Disaster Relief Fund set up for local entities. And our EDC Executive Committee voted to contribute $25,000 to that cause. So some of those grants that have been going out, I think there have been a number of them, I'm not sure in terms of how many. They haven't been big grants, but there'd be probably some of them in the $500 to $1,500 range, most likely, to help companies or even individuals with maybe rent if you're a business, or maybe even buy groceries for someone who was out of work. So we were happy to be a part of that. So that was one of the things that we could do, to contribute. I've been on a lot of Zoom meetings, as all of y'all probably have Zoom and just video conferencing and that sort of thing. That seems to be kind of the best way to communicate this day and age. And looking at economic development trends and things maybe going forward and how the COVID epidemic has impacted our industry, I think there are some things that maybe could be beneficial to our local community in that regard. I think there's going to be a tendency maybe for some overseas production of especially things that are manufactured in China. We found out that we're probably relying on them too heavily. And so I think a lot of that manufacturing could come back to the United States. And the other thing is, I think with what we're seeing in today's world, I think there's maybe some thought that locating in a rural community might be a safer place for companies to be. So I think by the mere fact that we have a new business park, thank you for that, your involvement in that process. I think we're positioned really well to see some success that may be driven by some of the bad things that have happened as a result of COVID. But I think it's a little early in the game to see how that's all going to play out. Those are some of the things that are being talked about. Other trends, there's going to be very, very limited travel. Like I say, most everything's going to be either a video conference or Zoom or something of that nature. So getting on a plane, traveling, EDC's activities. Again, this is from the first quarter. I realize we're well into the year, but this is our first quarter report. First thing I want to call your attention to, for those of you who do not know, our EDC's executive committee, we had our elections back in January, and our executive committee, while they are elected for a 2-year term at the end of this year, first vice president is Chris Lefevre, so he'll be our incoming president in January. Sharon Wright is the second VP. Danny Glenn is our secretary. Of course, Vito Ortega is our immediate past president. When we had our board meeting back in January, new board members that were Rebecca Bernal, who's the manager of Amigos out here, Jordan Leffler, who is the manager of Western Equipment Company, and Tully Struve, who is the new owner of Panhandle Popcorn. The EDC, for those of you who do not know, is comprised of 38 voting members and 6 ex officio non-voting members. Only EDC members can serve on the board of directors per the organization's bylaws. Directors serve 4-year terms. And let me back up for just a moment, a big oversight here on the executive committee. In addition to these members that I just mentioned to you, our bylaws state that we have our county judge have a position on the executive committee as well as our mayor. So County Judge Mull serves on that executive committee, as does Wendell Dunlap, and I apologize for not putting that on there. Before all of the country shut down, we were able to trade show. That was the SHOT Show back in January in Las Vegas. It's a show about guns and ammo and all things related. I went with the High Ground of Texas that attended that trade show. We walked away with 22 leads. All of those leads have been sent information on Plainview and Hale County. Again, our timing on this was such that went out when pretty much everything is kind of shut down and companies are just kind of in a holding pattern right now. But we'll continue to follow up with these people as things open back up, and hopefully there will be some good prospects that might come out of that. Wayland Baptist University's Next Gen Business Accelerator, that is a program that the EDC is funding or helping to fund in Spark. And he gave that class a project as their final here a couple of weeks ago, and I heard 4 different presentations from 4 different groups, and I was part of the judging panel that gave them a grade, and they gave them a specific project to work on, but they were unable really to kind of get their program in full swing because about the time they were getting going, Wayland shut down the campus, and they have had to meet remotely through Zoom, those kind of things. So the program's really been kind of hampered a little bit in terms of really getting back going full force. But I did hear those presentations. They were very well done and helped them out with the grading process. And so the program, I think, is in place to really move forward once things open back up and they get the campus open in the future. Plainview Hale County Housing Study. One of the things that we have talked about and discussed for quite some time. You have to go all the way back to the mid-'80s before you can see where we had a housing project going, where we had a subdivision being developed. Some lots out in Westgate were built out by Beatonbow back in the '80s, and we haven't had anything other than spec homes under construction in our county that I know of since that time. So we know we have a lot of people who work at some of our larger employers like Walmart, Azteca, and those kind of places that commute to Plainview. So we want to delve in and find out, do they commute to Plainview because they want to live in a smaller community and drive in, they prefer that setting, or are they commuting out of necessity because they can't find adequate housing here in Plainview? So we're going to try and find some answers and move us forward on a housing study. It'll be quite expensive to do that. It's a very deep dive in terms of kind of an economic development study, but it will be a tool for us to look at and approach maybe a developer to come in and build some homes and help us going forward, because with our business park, the bond issue that the city passed, our new schools that are going to be going up, all of these things are hopefully going to attract new people to our community, and we don't want to have a situation where we don't have adequate housing for them. So this study will help us determine, a direction to go in with regard to new houses. I can tell you, since this time, we had some developers come in. I took them around town. I believe there are 2 new houses going up in Westgate right now as a result of our efforts to get a developer to come up here and look. It's a builder out of Lubbock that's doing that. Next page, Azteca Milling, celebrating their 30th year in Plainview. I met with the management out there to see if we can maybe do some kind of a celebration for them. You'll remember a few years back when Walmart Distribution Center celebrated their 30th anniversary, we did a community-wide event where we cooked 3,500 hamburgers. I believe that's the number, and over 1,000 hot dogs. We fed all the Walmart DC employees and their families. Did it out at Ollie Liner Center, and it was really a good community event. I think they really appreciated it. So I approached Azteca on whether they would allow us to do a similar type event, and he seems to think they will allow that. And again, I was doing this about the time, in fact, the day I met with him, he was about to get on a conference call with his upper management regarding, how they were going to address social distancing and all that kind of stuff at the plant. As far as I know, there's not been any issues out there, or really in any of our large employer sectors as far as COVID. But anyway, hopefully, as things kind of settle down, we can do an event for them similar to what we did for Walmart. They were very appreciative of that, and so Azteca is very valuable to our local community. In February, as most of you guys certainly know, the Oxy Project Mercury. I did call the guys out of Austin. It's probably been a couple of weeks now. I need to follow up with them just to find out where we are on this project. Is it still in the works? Is it going to go forward? And his feedback to me was that this project is very much on track, and the time frame may be a little bit different than what they gave us originally. But I think they're already taking some steps and doing some things out there to move this project forward. So thank you all for what you did on this project. This would not have happened, I don't think, unless y'all had stepped forward to help them out with the incentives that they were asking for. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to be a good project for us, I think. Next slide references a company called Floor. They are a marketing company. They're a leading economic development lead generation firm, if you will. They're the company that we have contracted with to help us with the marketing of our business park. They have already set us up with a website that is just dedicated to the business park alone. So they'll be sending out newsletters, emails, telephone campaigns to targets that are in our the target industries that we are looking for. If you'll remember, the ones that we are targeting are food processing and ag, warehousing and distribution. The contract that we have, that once it starts, it's like a 2-year contract to get these leads. Well, I've asked them if we could wait until things kind of open back up before we start the meter on that, because if we were under contract with them right now and they were holding our feet to the fire, we'd kind of be spinning our wheels. We'd be paying for time when we really couldn't do a whole lot. So they've agreed that they'll extend that out to where we don't have to contend with that. Next slide is the CTE Workforce Matching Grant Program that we've been a part of at the Plainview Hale County EDC for quite some time. We have contributed about $40,000 now to our local Plainview ISD CTE program. We bought things like welding equipment. We bought some computer equipment. We're helping them this year with some hospital beds actually for their medical programs that they have at the high school. So the grants that we give are matching grants. So whatever we give them, they're able to leverage that through Texas Workforce Commission and get a match. So the $40,000 that we've given them has probably been leveraged to close to $80,000. One thing that we did this year, we helped out Abernathy's CTE program. They have a strong ag CTE program there, and we helped them buy some computers. I think our grant to them was somewhere around $4,000, best I can remember. And so, since we are the Plainview and Hale County EDC, we felt like that was probably a good use of our funds. And again, this all falls under the umbrella of workforce development, so we were happy to be a part of that. In March, mentioned housing and the fact that we're doing a housing study. This could be perhaps a piece to that puzzle. The owners of the Hitchin Post have taken a portion of their acreage that they have there, and they are developing a tiny house subdivision called Pioneer Village, and they've got 2 model units out there that they have on display, and I think they can have up to like 52 or 3 units out there at their location. Tiny houses, probably not for everybody, but there is a segment of people out there that, that might really appeal to them. If you're really trying to downsize, that might be good. I mentioned that we had a COVID-19 resource page on our website. This is the first page of our website when it opens up, and it's got the COVID-19 resources. You click on that banner ad, and it takes you right to those resources. I mentioned the fact that we contributed $25,000 to the Plainview Disaster Relief Fund, and again, those monies are totally local. No one but local entities are getting that money. Pipeline update. Currently, I've spent a lot of time really kind of purging and whittling down our pipeline, because we've had a lot of stuff that stayed in there that's just not going anywhere, still active or not. And if I haven't gotten any feedback or any activity kind of showing me there's some movement, I'm just taking them out of that pipeline. And so I've got 2 good prospects in there right now. And these, again, I would consider hot prospects. They're company purchase land, or they are under contract with land to put in a project in our community. So we'll see how that goes. Upcoming events, we're going to cut a ribbon at some point in time at the business park. I'm not sure when that will take place, but it's probably going to be later on in the year when we are allowed to have large crowds gathered. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but when we do that, we want to celebrate the opening of our business park, and we'll certainly let you know. Y'all will probably know when that happens. Any questions? Thank y'all again for what you do for this community and for Hale County. I think we're poised for some really great things ahead. We just kind of get over this difficult and challenging time that we're kind of going through right now. I think we're positioned well for the future, and that's really what counts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for what you do at the EDC and the work that you provide and the leadership there. So, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Anybody have any questions of Mike? All right. Then our next item is Mark from Germ Blast. Mark approached us, Mark, a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, sir.
And, basically, he was called down. He did a walkthrough, analysis of the juvenile probation office area. They called him and asked him to come and give him a quote on their building. So, Mark had told me that they had serviced schools and hospitals for many years, and because of our ongoing situation now, he approached us about we would have an interest in the county buildings here. So what we've done, they didn't do a walkthrough, but we provided the information of the buildings for him, and he has some proposals of what they can do to help us. He's here to tell us a little bit about his company and then discuss our buildings. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Judge Mole, and for the team, we appreciate the opportunity to get to visit with you guys today. Thank you so much, and ladies. Yes, Germ Blast has been around for about 10 or 12 years. We call ourselves a high-level disinfectant company, and we were really originally built to call on hospitals. Our CEO was an epidemiologist, and he wanted to help on fighting hospital-acquired infections. And we actually today do disinfect Covenant OR and Grace, UMC, and Lubbock Heart. So we still have our ties to the medical and the healthcare industry. And we do a lot of the clinics in Lubbock as well. About 8 years ago, we got in the school business. We've hired some superintendents. I don't know if you would recognize the name Mike Motherell. He was superintendent at Sundown for 30 years or so. And he joined our team back 8 years ago. Steve Burleson, he coached in this area for a number of years. I think finished up at Tahoka. And then a young man at Lockney, Phil Cotter. I don't know if y'all recognize that name. He was the superintendent there. He joined our team a few years ago. And so we probably have over 150 schools that we do our services for in the state of Texas. I should mention too, our corporate headquarters are in Lubbock, and we have our service team out of Lubbock that services the Panhandle, but we have teams in the Dallas area, Houston, and El Paso. So we do cover the state. I was going to mention on our corporate team, we have epidemiologists, microbiologists, a biochemist. I don't know if you recognize the name Chris Truitt, Dr. Truitt, who has taught at Wayland over the years and at Texas Tech. He's our chief science officer and has been with Germ Blast. So we have a great clinical staff as part of our corporate team. But like I said, we've kind of been a little bit of a secret, mostly working with the medical industry and schools. And then, of course, COVID-19 has come about, and a lot of folks are interested in disinfecting their facilities. We really have two services that we offer. One that I'm not really here to talk as much about today is our biological response. Originally that was for like accidental deaths or a suicide, wherever there was a bodily fluid that you needed, a hazmat team to be able to come in and remediate and take care of the situation. Of course, now that's gone over to COVID-19 situations. On a lot of the COVID-19 incidents that you've seen, probably on TV, we've been the team called in to disinfect the Lubbock nursing home rehab. That they had quite a few problems there, and we were called in there. We laughed a little about Judge Keys at Seminole. His daughter tested positive. He was around her. He had gone all through the building. He had to quarantine himself for 14 days, but we came in to disinfect the Seminole County Courthouse for them. So we have that part of our business, but that's not what I wanted to visit with you about today. Today is about our preventative services that we offer. And I'll just very quickly tell you what we do on those. We bring a team in, whether it would be into your home or to your business or to a school or to a hospital or to a courthouse. And our team goes room by room. And we have 4 steps that we do. We use our PCO devices, air purification devices, photocatalytic oxidation. For the layman's terms, it's an air scrubber. There's a lot of harmful pathogens in the air. For most of the schools that we serve, they have a PCO device in their nurse's office. A lot of people keep it in their homes or in their work offices. We have 3 or 4 at Germ Blast in our office, but we set up our air purification device. So as we're doing our service to the room, that's our first step. Number 2, and this was what we feel like sets us apart from our competition, we do a pre-treatment service. We take a microfiber cloth with a hospital-grade disinfectant and we actually wipe down all the surface areas and high touch points in a room. We think you need to clean before you disinfect. There's a biofilm that builds up from the microorganisms that have been on there over time. We want to bring those down before we disinfect. So we're cleaning the air, wiping all the surface area and high touch points down. And then number 3, we use our electrostatic sprayers. Now that might be something you're familiar with. A lot of people who've got into the disinfectant business now over the last couple of months with all that's happened use electrostatic sprayers. And just to, I don't know if you would be familiar with that, but what you do with those, you electrically charge the solution that you're spraying. So we electrically charge the disinfectant that we have, and that causes it to adhere to, wrap around, stick to the surface areas better. I mean, vertical walls, underneath tables, anywhere where we spray the disinfectant. We say we have 99.9% coverage when we use these electrostatic sprayers. And the disinfectant we use is on the CDC in list as to be effective against COVID-19. And it's been effective against all the infectious diseases that we covered before COVID-19 came around as well. And then a 4th step, we have a Germ Blast Shield product, an antimicrobial barrier. We place it on after we disinfect. It's a little bit of a foo-foo. It doesn't really kill anything. It inhibits odor-causing bacteria and fungi and mold from coming back for 90 days. But that's our process that we do. Air purification, wipe everything down, use our electrostatic sprayers with a hospital-grade disinfectant, and the Germ Blast Shield product. I don't know if you have a question about that before I kind of move on to us to look at the proposals. Anything you can think of? We do have some value adds, and Judge Moore, we didn't really talk about these before, but we have a software program, our Germ Stats. When we come in and do our services, we have swabs, ATP swabs, adenosine triphosphate. They measure the RL units that are on surfaces. Sometimes I forget what that, let me just make sure I mention that correctly. Yeah, those are the relative light units. So the surface area has a buildup. We measure them, we come through and do our disinfectant process, and then we swab again so that we have what we would call evidence base, for our treatment of the areas that we're servicing. So we have a Germ Stats software. We have an education program where we can come in and help in-service the maintenance and facilities staff people so that they feel better about how they're disinfecting. And we also have public awareness programs. A lot of our schools like to put a sign outside, hey, Germ Blast was here, protected by a Germ Blast. It's a great community relations program to let your people know, hey, we care about you, we're going the extra mile. We're disinfecting this facility appropriately. So that's some of our value-added stuff that we have. Let me hand out these proposals, and I've got 10 of them, and we'll kind of go through them together, and I can show you what we've just kind of come up with. We, both of you ladies on the corner? We propose this a number of different ways. So we kind of have different things we can look at. Would you like to do this? Well, I'll give you one too since I got it. Well, hey, let me hang on to this. All right, so I'll use this one to talk about. Yeah. We have 4 buildings that we're looking at here for disinfecting. Your county courthouse, the Justice Center, the county jail, and the annex. And if we don't have the pages numbered, but kind of counting that first page, if you'll just go over to page number 4, you can see the first proposal that we have. I'll walk you through this one, and then it helps us understand the other ones are all pretty much built the same. So as you can see at the top, this is for the Justice Center, there in the bold type. And this particular proposal is for 4 services during the year. For a lot of our medical, the ORs that we call on, so we're in there monthly, and a lot of the clinics, monthly or bi-monthly. But for most of our schools and businesses, we recommend quarterly. I always like to laugh. There's one title company in Lubbock, and we're in there weekly. I guess they're pretty cautious. If that's what they want us to come in there every week to disinfect, we'll do that. But we feel like that's a little too much. So our offerings for you guys here are quarterly, and you're going to see a one-time proposal as well. But if you look at the first page there, you can see the proposed services 4 times. You can see the germ blast service under that per service total at $1521.09. You see that box right there. Now, because we quoted it quarterly, we give you a discount by considering to go with this for a year. So we take a 7.5% discount off that. So for a quarterly service for the Justice Center, that's $1,407.01. Or, and by the way, we invoice per service. So you can see the annual total at the $5,600. We wouldn't bill you for that. We would just bill for that. So what we've done, we've taken all 4 buildings, as you can go through the proposals, and we've quoted them quarterly, and then we've quoted them for a one-time service. And there's the courthouse. Quarterly, it's around $1,300 per service, and then for a one-time service, $1,800. Then for the Hale County Jail, $2,700, a little over $2,700 for quarterly services. A one-time service, almost a little over $3,700. And then finally on the annex, if you went quarterly services, it's a little over $600 per service, a little over $800 if you went for a one-time service. And then we made one more reduction or discount. That last page there of the proposal takes all 4 buildings, doing them all at a quarterly service with another discount upon there. So it would pretty much be, if you went, one by one, they'd be like the $61,1890. But we've done another discount, so you can save a couple of $1,000 there if you went for the proposal of all 4 for quarterly services. Would anybody have a question about anything right off on that? Of course, these are yours to have. I know you'll have to discuss them and figure some things out. One of the things I did want to mention, on the jail, we would have to, do some special planning ahead of time on how we would work around the inmates. For most of our teams, we call ahead, we show up, you open up, and we go in. It's after after work hours for the courthouse. You're not here. You turn us loose. We just go through the whole building, room by room, and do our process. For the jail, we would have to work with someone, have a plan ahead on how we wanted to move, the inmates maybe from one block or area to another while we clean, and then they could move back in and we could go to another area. It would be hard for us if we went cell by cell, and we had to wait each time just for one cell to be open and our drying time for our services. So I did want to mention that. That would be something that we would work on ahead of time and have a plan for from an inmate standpoint. We are part of some of the buying groups. I don't know if TIPS is one of the groups that you guys use as the county purchasing. Would you recognize that name right off?
No.
Maybe not. Do you all know which buying groups that you're part of right off?
We're in the buy board.
Okay, all right. So we'll be able to reference those and work on those things. And I know we've talked a little too about that the CRF, the Coronavirus Relief Fund that's out there, and how you're accessing those funds, Judge Mull, and trying to decide. I do have it. We do have a doctor who's a judge. We talked about that. That's in It's up north. Is it Clarendon? I think it is. He's a medical doctor and a judge.
I gave up my practice.
Did you really? What about a question on anything? Something that you thought about as we talked through?
Any questions of Mark or the proposals or anything to do with the company? Mark, I know I was a sheriff before I was the judge, and I know when we come out and spray for pest control and things like that, they're required to present a notice 72 hours before, so that if you have someone that may be allergic to anything that they're spraying or whatever, they can give us notice. Do y'all, as far as what you use, do you have any adverse effects toward people maybe with asthma or other medical conditions?
Great question. You know, we do have safety data sheets for all the products and chemicals that we use. One thing I should mention, we do not use any bleach, no chlorine or bleach. The main disinfectant product we use is, of course, approved by the EPA. I think I mentioned it's on the CDC list, you know, to fight COVID-19 and other infectious disease. The product is called Oxiver 516. That's kind of one of our main products. But we do a lot of daycares, because as you can imagine, small children, they get each other sick every day. You know, they're all touching and sneezing, coughing on each other. When we come in and disinfect the daycare centers, we spray their toys, and they have them in their mouth the next day. You know, so we do, you know, have safe products that don't have the side effects that would be a problem, or no bleach of any kind.
Okay, all right.
Good question. And can provide safety data sheets for any of those.
Okay.
If you have a question.
Any other questions? Or okay, Mark. Well, we appreciate your being here today. We appreciate you showing interest in us and approaching us with this. And you're welcome to be back on Monday if you'd like to be. What we'll do is we'll discuss this and we'll bring it back up Monday for a vote. All right. And so, like I say, you're welcome to be here. But if you choose not to be here, it won't affect anything. So,
well, thank you for that opportunity. You know, one thing I should mention too, we are, of course, flexible. We don't have to do things quarterly, and we don't have to do all of a building. If there's decisions made, hey, what about this courtroom or that area, or we just built these quotes because it's kind of what we talked about to give us an overall view, but any amount of time, any amount of space, we're comfortable on working with you on if you decide on that.
okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, our next item on today's agenda is Commissioner Precinct 4.
Okay, I received a request from the Sheriff's Office to place some vehicles on Rock Star auction like we did last year. So this time I'm asking for permission to put these vehicles on, and if there's any other, anybody else that wants to add some vehicles to the list to auction off, do so. But basically, just asking for permission to put these items on the auction.
So this auction's primarily just for vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, all right. When are you gonna list it, Jim?
Just trying to get permission now. I mean, it might be a week or so before I can get everything on. I still gotta get all the information.
All right.
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of days.
Yeah, but before we start the budget hearings.
Okay, well, that's good information. So if y'all have any vehicles or that you want listed, if you'll get a hold of Jimmy and let him know. We'll cover that on Monday also. All right, Jimmy, your second item.
Okay, as I drive around, I don't see out in the rural areas where we have paved roads, I don't see any speed limit signs, and I know if there's a reason for that or not, but I've been approached by some citizens out in the county where I do have paved roads. They're concerned about the truck traffic coming down the roads at a high rate of speed, and they want to know if there's anything we could post a speed limit sign or something to let the trucks know or the traffic know that there is a reduced speed limit, or what y'all's opinion on that. I'm just asking for suggestions and what y'all think.
Just from what the information I've dug up, because we had the same questions asked. If you want to change it from what they tell me the original speed limit sign was, we have to vote, I think we have to vote on the commissioner's court to drop the speed limit from the normal speed down to whatever, 30, 40 miles an hour.
You know, like where I've got three or
Louder,
four
yes.
houses on a full half-mile road, and, you know, it's one of the things that reduce it down on that part, not the whole, not every street, but just certain places.
Well, I think on all paved roads, TxDOT has a speed limit. You know, it's either, because I know at one time it was that way, you know, highways were certain speed and city streets were certain speed through a recommendation through TxDOT. And I think if you wanted to, like Harold said, go lower than what it was approved to be, then you had to address those individually. And so I think what Jimmy's talking about is he's got certain paved roads in the county that don't have any speed limit signs, whether it's a state limit or something he wants to set. And so you want to buy the speed limit signs and put them up, Jimmy, or?
Well, I'm just asking for recommendations and see where we need to go with it. I don't know, I'm sure they've had other instances in the past where it's come up.
I know we've talked about it in the past, and, you know, it seemed like we all agree if we put up a sign, we're gonna have it enforced.
Right.
I don't think we need to put something out that's not gonna be enforced, that's kind of the problem.
And some of the people had already contacted the sheriff and he told them that, you know, if you want to reduce speed limit some, then we're gonna have to approach it and look at it and see what we've got to do to, because I think he can enforce it. It's just, we're gonna have a sign.
I know you'll have to go through the county attorney with all this if you decide to do that, because, you know, people think they just go out and randomly throw up a sign.
Right. Yeah, I know it's
Those
all
are
issues.
specific guidelines or regulations that you have to follow. The sign has to be a certain height and all that kind of
It's
stuff.
like the no truck traffic signs that I talked about for my neighborhood out there. I'm gonna have to put out a public meeting announcement at some point to have it. Then I can put it through court, and then I can put no truck traffic signs out there. Unlike the city, they have a designated truck route, so wherever they just decide they don't want a truck, they go ahead and put a no truck sign. But we don't have that as a county. I've learned all that in the last month or so.
Yeah. Basically, I'm just opening this up for, you know, suggestions and what we can do, or I don't want to go against the grain or try to, I'm asking for suggestions.
So you talk to Tyree and talk to Sheriff Cochran.
Anybody else got anything? All right, then item E, the district clerk,
Okay.
also known as our executive producer.
When I came to court, a couple of weeks ago, whatever, lost that name. I asked to put screens up on my counter, and what I was going with was the plexiglass, and then they came in and I saw, and I thought, if this is being paid out of permanent improvement, these aren't gonna be a permanent thing, because, you know, they were plexiglass and not great quality. So, and then after Latrice got hers, I was really impressed with that, and I noticed, you know, Roland has them, all the offices have them, so I had Reed Glass come out and measure mine, and, you know, and I thought, well, if I if it's within range, and you're pretty close, David, at what you guessed. So, he did come and he measured my whole counter with the glass and the little cutouts for us to do the paperwork. You know, we figured we have room to write on this side, the customer has room, so I don't think it's gonna affect anything like that. And it ended up being $3,785, and we had approved 35 on the on the plexiglass. So what I'm asking for is to a bit just enough to go ahead and get the glass and make it really permanent and look, you know, real professional. So that's what we asked for Monday. On Monday, I'm just gonna go ahead while I'm up. The other thing I'm gonna do is, when we had the phone bill and internet upgraded and everything, Mario had asked that after we get all the final total, because we were, you know, floating in and out with others, and Melinda and them, I think they've got the final, what the bill will be every month, and so that's what I'll be presenting on Monday about the phone bill. It's not to change anything, it's just to make sure y'all are aware of what we're paying.
Just as a comment, I can say I went over and saw what Carla had ordered, almost temporary glass, and the difference between what Latrice has and what she got is night and day, and for an extra $200, I mean, it's certainly worth doing that professional job like Latrice did. Any questions, Carla? All right. Then that concludes our agenda items for today. I gave you all a copy for Monday, and so we will go through and look at those. I have a couple of things on mine that is not, we didn't talk about today. One of them is the CARES grant for COVID that's through the federal government. It's a 23-page document, so be sure when y'all leave here, go down and get that, read it this weekend, and so that we can talk about it on Monday. And now, actually, the way it's worded, it's for expenses that the county has due to COVID-19. And I'll be honest with you, I printed it off today, so I hadn't read all 23 pages either, so it may entail more than that. But, and the expenses have to be incurred from like February 19th of this year till December 30th of this year. And so, and they have designated the top 12 counties got a direct fund from the federal government. They got their money sent to them. And all the rest of us have been designated X number of dollars. There is a match in there that we have to apply toward the grant. And so, you know, I'm not here trying to sell a grant. I'm here to ask us to look at it and decide if it's something we want to undertake. Because, you know, people hear grant and they think free money, but when you're involved with the federal government, and especially in those grants, they're labor intensive and they're bookkeeping intensive. So, like I said, y'all be sure and look at that so that we can talk about it Monday. Okay? Now, I'm not necessarily saying that we have to make a yes or no decision Monday, but it's something we need to talk about.
Judge, speaking of that, as far as, for example, this germ blast, if we should decide to do that, are we going to be able to get some help with it because it's pretty expensive? Would we be able to get any help with it?
I think you would certainly qualify for, at least this year, for under that COVID-19 funding. You know, now, moving forward, I don't know how we cover the cost, maybe other than budgeting, but I think for this year, that would certainly qualify for some of that expenses. So. And you know, it's one of those things in that funding, lots of times you just present what you're gonna do, and they give you a yes or no answer. And then I'll have the Petersburg and Health Center EMS reports, and we'll discuss the germ blast and the quotes that he left for us. The county attorney will be here. He has a new employee. She's not new to the county, but she's new to his office, so he'll be here to announce that. Precinct 1 commissioner,
Just, Diane Martinez, talk about the dumpsters, and set warrants and clean up. And then Kevin Igo about the Parade of Breeds stock show thing that's gonna go on Father's Day weekend out at the Holly Line Machine.
okay. So we'll discuss those. Jimmy has his items that we discussed today, and Carla just went over her items. So that covers our agenda for today and a preview of Monday. Is there any comments on today's agenda or Monday's agenda? If not, then we'll stand adjourned this morning at 10:00.